Live from Washington, D.C., Jay Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now. And now, Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow.
Everybody, welcome to the broadcast. And it's a good way to start this broadcast. We've got a nice win out of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit. Now, this case involved the national motto, "In God We Trust." There's been a series, as you know, a series of challenges to the national motto. We've been litigating this, my goodness, for three decades. But what's interesting here is this decision just came out late last night. Here's what we argued in our brief that was filed on behalf of members of the United States Congress, and, of course, our American Center for Law and Justice and our committee to defend the national motto, which many of you were members of. I'll get the exact number. I think it was a couple 100,000 people. We'll get that. But anyways, here's basically the four arguments we made. Number one, the national motto does, in fact, reflect the historical fact that this nation was founded upon a belief in God. Number two, the First Amendment does not compel the redaction of all references to God just to suit, in this particular case, atheists who were complaining about it. Appellants were arguing that they had a free speech claim to not have to see the national motto on coinage. We thought that was wrong. We also thought that they lacked standing to assert their claims. The Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals issued a decision today, or last night, affirming the lower court's dismissal of the case, which held that, in fact, the national motto, "In God We Trust," on U.S. currency is, in fact, constitutional. I want to get your opinions on this, folks, because it's kind of a core ACLJ case. That we've been handling these cases. As you know, I've been litigating these cases before the Supreme Court for 3 decades. And we've got now another win here. Now, I think the next stop on this one is probably the Supreme Court of the United States. But, Harry, what's your reaction to it?
Well, my reaction to the plaintiff's claim is they have not suffered a cognizable injury. And if you look at the opinion, the plaintiffs have alleged facts showing societal bias against atheists supporting their claim that they face stigma. They have also alleged facts suggesting that Congress required and reaffirmed the inscription of the motto on currency for Christian religious purposes, but they have not presented factual allegations plausibly demonstrating that the challenge statutes cause the societal bias in their asserted injury. So, in essence, they have made up a claim which they cannot prove, and they've made up a claim that is contrary to American history.
So their argument is that they are, because they're having to use the money, that they are endorsing the message on that money. Now, I did a case on government speech, which is what this would be in that context, called Pleasant Grove versus Summum. It was a Ten Commandments monument case. We won that 9-0. All the justices agreed with us and ruled against the other, the Summum group, which was a religious group trying to challenge the Ten Commandment monument display. But what the court says here is that Walker and Summum, referring to 2 cases, but the Summum is the case that I argued, similarly determined that whether speech on an optional license plates and privately donated monuments in public parks, that was our case, respectively, were government speech by assessing whether persons who observe these items routinely and reasonably interpret them as conveying some message on the owner's behalf. In other words, when the dollar bill is utilized, Andy, the idea that the person is endorsing everything on that dollar bill, the court said, no, that is not correct.
That is correct, and it is not correct. You know, Jay, on the back of the dollar bill, there are symbols that are Masonic.
Yep.
The eye, the pyramid, those are pagan symbols. Does that mean that if we are using it, we're endorsing paganism or Freemasonry? No, it does not. It is a choice that has been made by the government. It is government speech. It is not speech that is considered to have a purpose that is offensive, and therefore the court in this case was absolutely correct to uphold the motto.
And everybody knows it's the government that's speaking here. I mean, this is where this argument I thought had no merit. Having said that, you got to take all these seriously. We did. We filed a brief in the case. And again, I'm not going to. I suspect this goes to the Supreme Court. I don't think they'll take it, but I wouldn't be shocked if it goes there. But then again, on the interrelation between the legal work and the political side, or what I would call the governmental affairs side, this shows a nexus of what we do.
Yeah, well, and you just read the claim. They were trying to put words in the mouth of Congress. So what did? We went to Congress and said, look, they're trying to speak for you. We would like to present your argument to the court. We did that in this case. We combined it with our members' interest in the case, which, Jay, there's no accident there. Members of Congress like to do what their constituents want. We provide that nexus. We make the argument to the court. And, Jay, usually this is the result. Our side wins.
Yep. Hey, we've got a petition up as we continue to defend the national motto. You could join it. Over 320,000 of you have defending the national motto. 877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255 or aclj.org. Again, if you want to sign up for that petition, defending our national motto, this one may go to the Supreme Court. 877-989-2255 or aclj.org.
It's happening again. Our national motto, "In God We Trust," is under attack in the courts. Those determined to banish our motto continue to make outrageous claims. Claims like our national motto is, quote, extremely offensive, quote, represents bigotry and persecution. The arguments are absurd. At the American Center for Law and Justice, we have successfully defended "In God We Trust" on numerous occasions. We defeated attempts to remove "under God" from the Pledge of Allegiance at the Supreme Court and lawsuits against the national motto before. Now we continue the fight to counter the challenges to our national motto. Stand with the ACLJ in this important battle. Our national motto is ingrained in the fabric of our great nation. We will continue to defend "In God We Trust" thanks to your support. Stand with the ACLJ now. Join the team that defends your religious and constitutional freedoms. Check it out online, aclj.org.
Here's what the court said. Because the plaintiffs do not allege that the motto, "In God We Trust," is attributed to them, and because the Supreme Court has reasoned that currency is not, quote, readily associated with its temporary carrier, the person using the dollar bill, the district court properly dismissed the free speech claim. So that was also based on our decision at the Supreme Court in a case called Pleasant Grove versus Sumlin, which is a case I argued to the Supreme Court. So these precedents build on each other, and you see them. That was a case decided in 2009. Here we are in 2018, 9 years later, and that case is being cited in a different context, now in defense of the national motto. All right, we're taking your calls, and Amanda, thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Hi.
Hey.
Hello, guys. It is very important to me, the work that you do. I am very thankful, and all glory to God for His mercy, because the plaintiffs in this case, I don't believe that they know what they're asking for, because if you remove God from anywhere, they don't realize that this nation is founded, and it is only fruitful because of God and God alone. It is not because of us or men or anything else like that. And I'm just thankful to God. I'm thankful for you and your team there. And I also want to encourage other listeners that we should not only rely on people in positions, but also at home and get involved in our homes and our community.
Well, Amanda, in this case, I got to tell you something. I appreciate your comments. Something that's really encouraging to us is the fact that when we filed this brief, there was about 100 and I'll get the exact number here. I think it was 120,000 or so signatures, which is significant. 120,000 signed on to the brief. That same group that, as we worked this case over the last couple of years, went up to 353,000. So it almost tripled. I mean, came very close to tripling the amount of people that responded, which is great. And it tells you that these are important issues. But you talked about the religious heritage of our country, which clearly falls within the Judeo-Christian tradition. And Andy, you had those quotes earlier. I think it's worth bringing some of those again. I'll get Harry's comment too.
Yes, I think it's important that we understand and what the court said in this opinion, because as I'm talking, I'm reading the aspects and parts of the opinion, that the statutes establishing the national motto and directing its reproduction on currency have not just a religious purpose, as the plaintiffs here would have you believe, but a secular purpose as well. In other words, and the court has said this motto symbolizes what? The historical role of religion in our society. It formalizes our medium of exchange, fosters patriotism, and expresses confidence in the future. This is what the court just said yesterday in this opinion.
Well, I totally agree with Andy. If you go back to the 1892 Supreme Court decision in Church of the Holy Trinity, the court said that this is a religious nation. The Supreme Court has also discussed the historical role of religion in our society and concluded that there is an unbroken history of official acknowledgement by all three branches of government. That includes the judiciary, of the role of religion in American life at least from 1789.
Yep.
So the caller is absolutely correct. This is a historical record that is clear, and I think Andy is correct, suggesting that religion plays a role in binding society together, encouraging patriotism, and that is important for sustaining the nation.
When you talk about the quote from the Trinity case, this is a religious nation, the rest of that quote goes on, whose institutions presuppose the existence of a supreme being. I don't know if that's in the opinion there, but that's how the entire opinion reads in the Holy Trinity case. All right, we're going right back to the phones, and let's go to Dan, who's calling from Washington, D.C. on line 2. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Jay. I just wanted to say I totally agree with the last caller that this nation was blessed by God and not by man. And the other comment that I wanted to make about the motto is that this is just one step. If they erase our motto, our national motto, it's going to be replaced with something else. And whatever else that is replaced with is not going to help to advance or help this nation in any way, shape, or form as what this national motto does.
So here's what you bring up the point, and that is, look, they're not going to get there's not going to be legislation passed in Congress that does away with the national motto. So what they're doing is, and they have the right to do it, is rely on the courts to do that work, because and that's never going to pass Congress to say we're no longer going to recognize "In God We Trust" as the national motto of the United States.
Well, the historical significance of the motto is well ingrained, Jay, but there's an open question about whether or not our future generations will know that. In fact, I actually just got a text from a friend who brings her 5th grade class to Washington, D.C. every year. This is someone you know, and they love going through the Capitol Visitor Center and seeing the national motto emblazoned. But, Jay, I'll tell you this. Andy's completely correct about the precedent and the importance of that for future victories, but the opposite is also true. I mean, once in a while, you do find a district court judge. I remember when Barbara Crabb ruled the National Day of Prayer as unconstitutional. So while there's a temptation to ignore these crazy claims because we just think they will never succeed, you have to follow up on them, because if you don't engage them, they can go the other direction.
Well, they have gotten judges to agree with them. I mean, it's not like they, it's not that they don't occasionally get a judge to agree with them. Occasionally they do get a judge to agree with them. So you got to be vigilant here. We'll go to Debbie, who's calling out of Boston, Massachusetts, on line 3. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Jay. I'm so thankful for all that you do, and I just pray for you, and support your ministry. But I have a question that I'm just concerned or just confused with. Who is paying for this lawsuit as far as the people filing it, as well as the ACLJ having to come up with resources to defend this and whatnot?
Yeah, well, the ACLJ, our members allow us to defend it. So people that donate and support the ACLJ allow us to go to court to defend these or bring actions. And likewise, on the other side, they do too. And they're allowed to do that. They have organizations that work on these cases, Freedom from Religion Foundation and others, and they have members and donors who support their work and enable them to bring the lawsuit. I doubt that the plaintiffs actually are paying for this, and nor do we charge our clients on ACLJ matters, don't get charged for representation. So, again, this is where the support of the organizations, I'm not making a plug for Mike Newdow's group or anybody else's, but the members of organizations support the work of the organization, which allows these to go to court, whether it's plaintiff or in this particular case, helping the defendants out, and the defendants being sued here with the United States Congress. So that's how these work in the world. Now, the question is what happens next on this case. I suspect Mike Newdow's a good lawyer. He may take that dissent and say, I may have an angle there a little bit on the Religious Freedom Restoration Act claim, which is a statutory claim, not a constitutional one, and take a rehearing on Bonk, or, Harry, he may go for a cert petition, but I expect one of the two are going to happen.
Absolutely. The individuals that brought this case, and they include the Northern Ohio Free Thought Society and the Michigan Atheists, along with a number of other plaintiffs. They are very, very persistent. They have a predetermined agenda to essentially expel and purge all religious references from the United States, or alternatively, to insert some alternative religion.
Hey, we've got a petition up as we continue to defend the national motto. You could join it. Over 320,000 of you have defending the national motto. 877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255. Or aclj.org. Again, if you want to sign up for that petition defending our national motto, this one may go to the Supreme Court. 877-989-2255 or aclj.org.
It's happening again. Our national motto, "In God We Trust," is under attack in the courts. Those determined to banish our motto continue to make outrageous claims. Claims like our national motto is, quote, extremely offensive, quote, represents bigotry and persecution. The arguments are absurd. At the American Center for Law and Justice, we have successfully defended "In God We Trust" on numerous occasions. We defeated attempts to remove "Under God" from the Pledge of Allegiance at the Supreme Court and lawsuits against the national motto before. Now we continue the fight to counter the challenges to our national motto. Stand with the ACLJ in this important battle. Our national motto is ingrained in the fabric of our great nation. We will continue to defend "In God We Trust" thanks to your support. Stand with the ACLJ now. Join the team that defends your religious and constitutional freedoms. Check it out online, aclj.org.
We talked about during this case that the Sixth Circuit relied on a case we argued at the Supreme Court called Pleasant Grove versus Summum. We represented Pleasant Grove on a Ten Commandments case, won at the Supreme Court unanimously. Here's a little bit about that case.
Well, Ten Commandment litigation had been going on for decades and not very well. And we had this case coming out of Utah where this little town, Pleasant Grove, wanted to fight back. And this group came in to say, well, if you're going to display a Ten Commandments monument, we want you to display our monument, which was called the Seven Aphorisms, which were basically the anti-Ten Commandments monument. The idea being, if cities are forced to do this, they'll be putting them up all over the country and cities will just remove their Ten Commandments.
This monument with the Ten Commandments has been here nearly 40 years. The Summum want to put their monument with the Seven Aphorisms right where I'm standing. To them, the issue is simple. If you allow one religious monument, you've got to allow another.
Pleasant Grove, Utah urges the justices to rule that just because it considers the Ten Commandments historic enough to include in a city park, it doesn't also have to allow in a monument from a recently organized church called Summum, which believes Moses was given something called the Seven Aphorisms before he got the commandments.
They gather inside a pyramid and practice the rite of mummification. This small band of worshipers call themselves Summum. The group, which has about 20 members, wants to donate a monument to the city of Pleasant Grove, which is near Salt Lake City, but the offer was refused.
What this really boils down to is closing a back door to shutting down displays of the Ten Commandments.
What the 10th Circuit did here literally threatens to undermine our celebration of American heritage in every little town and big city across the country, from the Statue of Liberty to Pioneer Park in Pleasant Grove, Utah.
Some say, like it or not, they've got a right to build their monument, thanks to the First Amendment.
We're talking about a public park. If we were talking about the front lawn of the City Hall, where government unquestionably controls and limits speech, that would be different.
The mayor of Pleasant Grove says this is not about religion. He says the Summum monument just didn't fit in.
This park is dedicated to the history of the people, the founding of the city, and significant people that have lived and contributed to the community.
I went with a very aggressive strategy. It was controversial at the time, where I said, no, look, this is the government making a decision to speak here. The government has the right to engage in activity. If it wants to promote the Ten Commandments because it has historic significance to the community, both from a political standpoint, a moral standpoint, a religious standpoint, it's a perfect right to do it.
Mr. Sekulow, when you come upon this, if somebody comes upon this monument in the park, how are they supposed to tell whether it's government speech or private speech?
Well, of course, the face of it, Mr. Chief Justice, states on the face of the monument that it's presented to Pleasant Grove City in Utah County by the Fraternal Order of Eagles. And as far as a government speech, as far as ownership and control goes, under a more of a Johans analysis, different from Finley and Forbes in that context, here the government exercised control. After all, they allowed it, accepted it, and allowed it to be erected in their property. Under Utah law, all right, title, and interest to that property. Governments, in the business of governing and determining the parks and the landscape of the parks, make these kind of decisions.
Could you imagine a group coming in saying, well, since you've displayed the Statue of Liberty, we're going to demand that the United States accept our monument, same height as the Statue of Liberty. We're going to call it the Statue of Tyranny, because that's how we view America. Would the United States be compelled to display the Statue of Tyranny, or could they say, no, The government is speaking, and we believe that the United States is a beacon of liberty, and that's why we're going to display the Statue of Liberty. Or at the Holocaust memorials that are throughout the United States in those parks, are you going to have to put a statue to Adolf Hitler because some neo-Nazi group wants it? No. When the government's speaking, it can determine its message.
If this opinion stands, they will now have to accept, they will be forced to accept the counterpoint to every statue, every monument, every memorial.
A monumental decision today by the Supreme Court in Pleasant Grove City, Utah. There's a park and in it a monument to the Ten Commandments. A small religious group known as the Sunam thought the park would also be a good place to put a monument of its own, but the city said no, so the group sued, claiming it violated its right to free speech. But today the High Court said not so. It ruled unanimously that parks are not required to take every monument they're offered.
I remember during the oral argument, Justice Ginsburg asking me about the Ten Commandments display, and I pointed to my right, because engraved in the Supreme Court frieze up on the wall is the Ten Commandments, Moses holding those Ten Commandments, and the words written in Hebrew.
This court has a depiction of Moses holding the Ten Commandments in the frieze of the courtroom with words written in Hebrew. That's not an endorsement of the religion or of the commandments. It's representative of a history.
And I said, basically, if it's good enough for the Supreme Court of the United States, it certainly is good enough for Pleasant Grove. And 9 justices agreed with this. It was a great decision and a great result. It's rare you win a Ten Commandments case, and it's even rarer to win it unanimously, and we did, by God's grace. It was a great victory, still is.
Let's go ahead and take some calls.
All right, let's do it. Let's go to Tina in Arizona on line 2.
Hey, Tina.
Hi.
Hey.
Yes, I'd just like to say that keep up the good work and keep fighting for our efforts, and I enjoy watching you on the internet.
You do? So you're a Facebook or Periscope watcher?
No.
No. ACLJ.org?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, good to hear that. So that's very good to hear. Look, I mean, we talk about this, but Andy and Harry, then we'll go to Andy. This is a core ACLJ case. I mean, this is when we started. This was what we did, and we continue to do it, but we're doing other things as well. So some of those get, these cases can sometimes get kind of pushed aside, and we don't want them pushed aside. We want to be able to highlight them when we get a decision. We got one here.
This is at the heart of what we do, Jay, and it's always been at the heart of what we do since we started many, many, many decades ago, it seems, in doing these religious liberty and religious freedom cases. What we have done here is we have taken the side, I think, of the historical precedent that has been established in the United States by Congress, by our traditions, and by our historical precedent that in God we trust is part of the fabric of our society. God and religion are part of the fabric of our society, woven in with all our institutions, secular religious institutions. It is part of this nation, and the societal bias that the plaintiffs claim that they incurred here and that they have been injured has been rejected once again, in this case by the Sixth Circuit, and I think rightly and correctly so.
Let's go to Abigail, who's calling on line 6 with a different point of view. Abigail, you're on the air.
That's good. Abigail, go ahead.
Hi. I'm kind of torn on this whole issue, and let me explain why, and then I want your comments on it. I was born in 1956. When I grew up, if somebody used the term God generically, it's pretty much understood you meant the God of the Bible. Whether you agreed with it, believed in him, it was understood. Now, the term God can mean just about anything, so it doesn't have the same meaning. So explain to me why, when there's so many other things we could be spending money and resources on, this is a hill to die on.
Well, it's not a hill to die on. It's the historical fact of our country. So we're founded under, I don't think anybody can argue that we're founded under Judeo-Christian principles. In God We Trust was inserted in as the national motto during a time when there was a great conflict between the United States and the former Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union, which is found on the basis of atheism, the United States said, what is our distinctive? Well, we believe that God gives liberty and freedom, not the government. And the government here is simply acknowledging a fact. And I appreciate you calling in, Abigail, and everybody. I was born in 1956 as well, a long time ago. And the fact is that that was an acknowledgement of who we are as a people. So, Harry, the historical precedent really predates the statute itself here.
Absolutely. So we are a nation that was founded in the belief, or on the belief, in a creator. God gives us liberty, not secular humanism, not radical human autonomy. And so it's very, very important to establish that principle. And our litigation does that. And by doing so, we have strengthened the nation's social fabric, and we have sustained the nation, I believe, going forward.
All right, let's go ahead and get another call.
Let's go to Pam in Pennsylvania, line 3.
Hey, Pam.
Greatly appreciate what you do. Strong supporter. I try to listen
Thanks.
every day that I can.
Great.
And I think this is crucial. I think that, standing up for the nation's motto on our money is important.
Look, I mean, don't think that this is over, because it's not. You can go to appeals, go to the Supreme Court, and there's going to be other cases like this. And I want Than to reiterate as we get ready to close the broadcast out, we had to fight for this at the Capitol Visitor Center, because on top of the motto, when you see the Capitol, when you see the where Congress meets under the dome, and you see emblazoned on the Speaker's dais, "In God We Trust," that was going to not be in the Capitol Center.
That's right. And the instruction to make that inscription, Jay, was actually passed by Congress. It was a statute that was then challenged in a court of law. Yep. And I would just quickly say in all of these cases, isn't it a great dovetail between our work in a court of law and then our members' right to petition the government for a redress of their grievances? Because, look, we give our members the opportunity to sign these legal arguments, but then we also ask their federal elected officials to stand with them. So, Jay, if you put that trifecta together, our legal work, our members having an opportunity to make their voices heard, and then their elected officials standing with us, in most cases, at least in the end, when the whole thing is played out, Jay, we win, we carry the day, because the legal arguments are correct, and we use every opportunity to make our members' voices known that we can.
Well, that's going to do it for the broadcast today. I want to encourage you to sign on to our petition defending the national motto. Now, look, on this particular case out of the Sixth Circuit, it may go to the full Sixth Circuit, may go to the Supreme Court of the United States. When it goes to court, we can file a brief on behalf of all of our members that signed the petition defending the national motto. You could do that at aclj.org. That's aclj.org. That's the easiest way. Or 1-877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255 or aclj.org.
It's happening again. Our national motto, "In God We Trust," is under attack in the courts. Those determined to banish our motto continue to make outrageous claims. Claims like our national motto is, quote, extremely offensive, quote, represents bigotry and persecution. The arguments are absurd. At the American Center for Law and Justice, we have successfully defended "In God We Trust" on numerous occasions. We defeated attempts to remove "Under God" from the Pledge of Allegiance at the Supreme Court, and lawsuits against the national motto before. Now we continue the fight to counter the challenges to our national motto. Stand with the ACLJ in this important battle. Our national motto is ingrained in the fabric of our great nation. We will continue to defend "In God We Trust," thanks to your support. Stand with the ACLJ now. Join the team that defends your religious and constitutional freedoms. Check it out online, aclj.org.